Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. Updated translation by Edwin Lefevre. Publisher's Introduction. Thank you for picking up a copy of Reminiscences of a Stock Operator by Edwin Lefevre. We have updated this work into modern English so you can understand exactly what Lefevre wrote over 100 years ago. If you enjoy this book, please share with a friend, leave a positive review on Amazon, and see more updated works at oldbooknew.com. Chapter 1. I started working right after finishing elementary school. I got a job as a quotation board boy in a stock brokerage office. I was really good with numbers. In school, I completed 3 years of math in just 1 year. I was especially good at doing math in my head. As a quotation board boy, I put the numbers up on the big board in the customer's room. One of the customers usually sat by the ticker and called out the prices. They never came too fast for me. I've always been able to remember numbers easily. No problem at all. There were a lot of other employees in that office. I made friends with the other guys, but if the market was busy, my work kept me too occupied from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. to chat much. Besides, I don't really like talking during work hours anyway. Even though the market was busy, I couldn't stop thinking about my work. Those stock prices didn't mean just money to me. They were numbers. Sure, they had a meaning. They were always changing. The only thing that interested me was the changes. Why did they change? I didn't know. I didn't care. I didn't think about that. I just noticed that they changed. That's all I focused on for 5 hours every day and 2 hours on Saturdays. The fact that they were always changing. That's how I first got interested in how prices move. I had a great memory for numbers. I could remember exactly how prices behaved the day before they went up or down. My love for doing math in my head was really useful. I noticed that when stock prices went up or down, they tended to follow certain patterns. There were many similar situations that helped me predict what might happen next. Even though I was only 14, after observing hundreds of these patterns, I started comparing how stocks behaved today with how they behaved on other days. Before long, I was able to predict price movements. My only guide was how they had acted in the past. I kept all this information in my head, expecting stock prices to follow these patterns. I had timed them, if you know what I mean. For example, you can see when the buying is just a little bit stronger than the selling. It's like a battle happening in the stock market, and the tape is your way to see it clearly. You can trust it in about 7 out of 10 situations. One of the first things I learned is that there's nothing new on Wall Street. That's because trading and investing have been around forever. Whatever happens in the stock market today has happened before and will happen again. I always keep that in mind. I guess I just make sure to remember when and how it happened in the past. Remembering like this helps me make the most of my experience. I got really into my trading and was eager to predict when stocks would go up or down. So I got a little notebook. I wrote down what I noticed about the stock market. It wasn't like those fake records some people keep just to pretend they're making or losing millions without actually risking anything. Instead, it was a log of my successes and failures. Besides trying to figure out where the market was heading, I was most interested in checking if my observations were correct. Basically, if I was right or not. Let's say I spent time watching every little change in a busy stock throughout the day. I might decide that the stock was acting just like it did before it usually jumped up or down by 8 or 10 points. So on Monday, I'd note down the stock and its price. Based on what I've seen in the past, I'd predict what it should do on Tuesday and Wednesday. Later, I'd compare my predictions with the actual results from the stock ticker. That's how I first got interested in what the stock ticker was telling me. From the start, I connected the ups and downs with movements in stock prices. Of course, there's always a reason for these changes, but the ticker doesn't bother with explaining why. It doesn't give reasons. I didn't ask the ticker why when I was 14, and I don't ask it now, at 40. The reason for why a stock behaves a certain way today might not be clear for days, weeks, or even months. But who cares? Your job with the ticker is to focus on now, not tomorrow. The reason can wait. But you have to act fast or you'll miss out. I see this happen over and over. Remember when Hollow Tube dropped 3 points the other day while the rest of the market went up quickly? That was the fact. The following Monday, you found out that the directors decided not to pay the dividend. That was the reason. They knew what they were going to do, and even if they didn't sell the stock themselves, they definitely didn't buy it. There was no insider buying, no reason for it not to drop. I kept my little notebook for about 6 months. Instead of going home right after work, I would write down the numbers I needed and study the changes. I was always looking for patterns and similar behaviors, basically learning how to read the stock ticker, even though I didn't realize it at the time. One day, one of the office boys, he was older than me, came up to me while I was eating my lunch and quietly asked if I had any money. "Why do you want to know?" I asked. "Hey," he said, "I've got a great tip on Burlington. I'm planning to play it if I can find someone to join me." "What do you mean by play it?" I asked. To me, the only people who could act on tips were the customers, wealthy folks with lots of money. It cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars to get involved. It was like owning your own fancy carriage and having a chauffeur in a top hat. "That's what I'm talking about. Go for it," he said. "How much do you have?" "How much do you need?" "Well, I can buy and sell 5 shares by paying $5. "What's your plan for this?" "I'm going to buy as much Burlington stock as the trading shop will let me. With the money I give them for margin," he said, "it's definitely going up. It's like finding free money. We'll double our money in no time." "Wait a moment," I told him and took out my small notebook. I wasn't focused on doubling my money. I was more interested in him saying that Burlington's stock was going up. If it was true, my notebook should show it. I checked, and sure enough, according to my calculations, Burlington was behaving like it usually did before its price increased. I had never bought or sold stocks before, and I didn't gamble with the other boys. But I saw this as a great chance to test if my analysis was accurate. It hit me that if my method didn't work in real life, then the theory behind it wouldn't be useful to anyone. So I gave him all the money I had, and with our combined funds, he went to a nearby bucket shop and bought some Burlington stock. 2 days later, we cashed out, and I made a profit of $3.12. After that first trade, I started making my own bets in the bucket shops. I'd go during my lunch break and either buy or sell. It didn't matter to me. I was following a system, not focusing on a favorite stock or relying on opinions. All I understood was the math behind it. In fact, my approach was perfect for a bucket shop, where traders simply bet on the ups and downs shown by the ticker tape. It didn't take long before I was making a lot more money from the bucket shops than I was earning at my job in the brokerage office. So, I quit my job. My family wasn't too happy about it, but they couldn't say much when they saw how much I was making. I was just a kid, and office boy wages weren't very high. I did really well on my own. I was 15 when I made